ask you, do you think this country needs new gas power stations? Apparently, this will all be about trying to get some form of energy security in this country because, you know what, it's all great, isn't it, talking about wind and solar or whatever, but what do you do when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine? Rishi Sunak has upset people today with this suggestion, people saying that actually this would do more damage to climate change than it would do good. Where are you on it, Richard?
I'll tell you exactly where. We need a lot more gas power stations and nuclear power stations because quite often the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. Last week, we imported 16% of all our electricity because we haven't got enough capacity in the UK and we're now totally over-reliant on renewables. And that is a strategic failure of huge proportions, not only sending money abroad, but what happens if those interconnectors fail? What happens if those countries we're buying electricity from, Norway and France, need it for themselves? We literally would have had blackouts last week. It is disastrous. We should be using our own gas, shale gas, getting cheaper energy, creating jobs and keeping our money here. That's what we should be doing.
So you support Rishi Sunak's proposals then?
No, the truth is actually Rishi Sunak is worried about us and realises that we're on the right track. That's why they're doing this, and that's why they're quite rightly rowing back on the madness of net zero.
Jo Phillips?
The part of the problem is the lack of storage capacity, which the government has finally got round to addressing. But for years and years and years, we closed down the storage capacity, which has left us very vulnerable, as was very evident when Putin invaded Ukraine. I think this as backup is actually quite a sensible idea. But they are not doing anything, as far as I can tell. At the moment, it will be retrofitted to have storage capability, which seems to be utterly bonkers. I mean, anyone who's got solar panels, you know very well you're storing up energy. So it's about storage as much as production. I think, why are they doing it now? Because they're scrabbling around for ideas with, months to go before
They're doing it now because they fundamentally failed to have enough capacity. They haven't replaced our nuclear power stations. They've let some of the gas stations go beyond the expiry, and they've suddenly realised, oops, we've got a problem. Our whole strategy was grotesquely negligent, and we, the taxpayer, are paying the price.
But, I mean, they could have gone, 20 years ago, we could have had nuclear power. We could have done more. We haven't looked far enough ahead in the future, and we are in grave danger of making the same mistake. I mean, why are they blocking or holding back more and more onshore wind facilities? We live on an island. There's an awful lot of wind. I know there are days when the wind doesn't blow, but we do live on an island. We are more likely to get wind. There's an awful lot we can do. We're not investing enough in green technology or nuclear to make ourselves self-sufficient. And meanwhile, energy companies and the big oil companies are making absolute fortunes. I mean, the other side of this is, what is the difference going to be? Blackouts are, they're irritating and...
Irritating? It'd be disastrous. It would destroy our economy.
Well, they would be now, but, some of us remember 3-day weeks and things like that. And in fact, I grew up thinking that everybody had, at least a couple of days a week when they had to eat off a Primus stove and things.
But over 20 years ago, we were a net exporter of energy, right? When we were using our own oil, our own gas and our own coal. Now, we're a massive net importer. We're sending our money overseas. We're at serious strategic risk. And it's a grotesque failure of, actually by both the two main parties over the last 20 years. And it's now us that are paying the price. We've got the most expensive electricity almost in the Western world. And that is directly linked to our huge, huge generating capacity in renewables.
And storage.
And storage, indeed. But this is, again, I don't want to harp on, but this is one of the problems in the politics in our country, isn't it? So many politicians, they just think in election cycles. Absolutely. They just think, what can I do and say to get my own backside re-elected at the next general election? They're not always looking ahead. Actually, politics aside, what is genuinely the best thing for this country going forward? Lee says, Michelle, please can I make a point when you talk about benefits? He works from home full-time, and he says he still has to get benefit top-ups just to be able to survive. I've got to say, credit to you, Lee. You've told me you've got quite a few kids as well. The pressure is on. I think it's shameful, actually, that someone can work hard, can graft full-time, and still the wages that they're getting are not enough to survive in this country. I think shame on whoever your employer is there. You might want to have a little word. Let me know how you get on there with that.